So this is going to be our third PowerPoint on our third day here. Don't pay any attention to this chapter name. That's chapter 7 of whatever textbook I think that they kind of got these materials out of. But we're looking at resumes today. So yesterday we talked about cover letters, which is how you're initially going to get in contact with any potential employers, right? Well, today we're looking at, so like once you've sort of gotten that contact, you want to make sure that you send them sort of a snapshot of like your work history in the form of like a resume so that they can evaluate it and determine like, yeah, this is exactly the type of person I'm looking for. And, you know, a lot of times like students like who are coming right out of school, they sometimes get a little nervous about the idea of like a resume because like, what do you put on it? You know, you don't have a lot of like practical work experience, but you know, that grows over time. Your work experience will get, you know, bigger and bigger and bigger as you go. Start with putting a lot of emphasis on your education. And really what you're doing is you're just trying to highlight the fact that like you know how to sort of write this formal document. So our learning objectives today are to talk about what a resume is and how to understand it, the importance of it when it comes to like the job hunting process, and then the structure and contents and length of like a good resume, like, you know, how to write it. What should be in a resume, what should not be in a resume, how to organize it. For you guys, you're probably going to want to start with like sort of what we call a functional resume, which is where you're going to put your education very early on at the top. I have so much work experience at this point, I've actually kind of stopped putting my education on my resume, and I don't even necessarily put all of my certifications anymore, because like I'd much rather highlight the fact that I have a lot of like practical experience, and I can bring up all that other stuff in an interview. You don't necessarily need to do that. That's just an approach that I have found kind of works for me, and I think that's because I generally look for jobs that are very practical, rather than ones that do focus a lot more on like my education. I think that like that, and again, this is where your resume becomes your resume with like your personal touch. But like, yeah, I like to, you know, bring up my education. I think that like I can show off education easily once I get an interview. And that way I can, you know, put stuff that might not highlight quite as easily on my resume. So we need to know what a good resume is. This talks about video resumes. We're not going to do any of that. But talking about it in general, what a resume is, it is one of the most important tools used in like the job hunting process, right? And the idea is that it is a formal document that serves as a snapshot of both your work experience and your education and any like skills that you have that you know, might be transferable from one industry to another. You know, like on my resume, I always put that I have like Microsoft Office skills. You know, like I have like word processing skills. I know how to use certain like project management tools and things like that. So the idea here, again, like your cover letter is your first point of contact, right? But your resume is probably what's going to really obtain you an interview. You know, this is where they're going to read your cover letter and be like, well, this is a really great candidate. Let's take a look and see if like their actual work experience fits sort of what I'm looking for. And so then they're going to look at it and evaluate and be like, oh, this is great. We're going to pull this person in for an interview. And then, you know, we'll talk about this more when we talk about interviews tomorrow, but you know, they're going to look all at the resume and probably have a pretty good idea of like what's on there. And then that's where a lot of your questions during your interview will actually come from. So again, that's one of the reasons why we always want to make sure we're being truthful on our resumes and in our cover letters and things like that. But you also want to remember like what you have on there so that you can, you know, talk about that freely and easily. When we're looking at it, right, generally the 3 most important things that you want to make sure that you have on your resume that like an employer is going to look at are going to be your ability and your capability. So they are going to look to see, you know, are you capable to actually do this job? And, you know, are you like certified, right? That's a big thing. A lot of places do have like certain certification requirements, you know, like for instance, like Sochi is a good example. Like if I were hiring at Sochi, you know, it's different than a gym, than a, you know, personal training situation. I'm hiring instructors to teach NASM protocols, right? So I'm certainly going to look to see if you're NASM certified or if you're certified through some other company, you know? Not that those other companies are bad. I'm just not going to hire somebody who doesn't have like the skills, talking about specifically the thing that we teach here. So, that's going to be a big part of things. And the same thing is true in gyms, certain gyms usually have like specific requirements for who they're looking for in a lot of like different work situations, right? I know that I'm a little snobby about it. I want NASM trainers. I'll take ACSM as like a close second. I'm gonna probably go NSCA as a third. But that's like, that's just me being snobby about, I trust the things that I know. So they're going to look at stuff like that. They're going to look at your experience, both your work experience, but also any volunteer experience that you happen to have. I know some of our students here have worked in after school programs doing like sports and athletics and things like that. So if you're doing stuff like that, that's great. You can put that down as experience on your resume. And then any of your skills that are like, actual skills related directly to the industry, but also transferable skills. Noel, you were asking about the idea of maybe putting like football, like the fact that you played, football down on like your resume. I wouldn't make a big chunk of your resume, but yeah, I'd put it under like your maybe transferable skills section in the same place where somebody else might put, that they've worked with sales or they're bilingual. That's a huge one. So that's sort of what we're going to see, and we'll kind of go through that here in just a little bit. So, all right, so obviously when it comes to your resume, you want to always make sure that it is very well organized, and it is highlighting all of your strengths, any of your accomplishments, skills, and then obviously like work experience is going to be huge here, right? So one of the first things you kind of want to start with is a career objective, right? So you want to start right at the top. Oh, and then hold on really quick. One other thing is like when you're writing this, make sure that each section is very simple and easy to read. You'll see what I mean in just a second. But at the top, oh yeah, right. At the top, you got to do your full name, your address, your phone number, URL if you have like a website or anything like that. But it's going to look so. Here's kind of the version that they've got in the official PowerPoint. This is one of the rare examples, by the way, guys, of a PowerPoint that I have modified. This is sort of what they got here, where you see like there's the name, there's their current address, they have their permanent address. I don't know why they would do that. But the big thing here is like phone number and email, right? Contact information. This is a version that I like much more. So you can see like here is someone's name right at the top of their resume. They've got their, again, like address. I don't think you necessarily need to do that. If you want to just put the city that you're in and the zip code, I think that's just fine. This is, the whole full address thing is sort of a stayover from when, there was a lot of like snail mail going on. Email. I don't recommend using an email like this, like where you can see this is very clearly like a student email. I wouldn't do something like that. I would use like a personal email. And if you guys can, I know it's kind of silly, but if you can find a way to make a professional-ish email rather than something like, Flaming Hades _6969. I wouldn't use that as your email professionally. If I were you, I'd maybe try to like figure out a way to get your name in there. I spent like a couple hours trying to figure out like, I went through Gmail, Yahoo, Hotmail, Outlook. I ended up trying every email out there to figure out how to finally get my freaking name with no numbers in an email. And I had to go with my middle name in there. So it's brad.lee.thompson@outlook.com. And that was like, it took me forever to figure like which combination. I tried BL Thompson, B Thompson, Brad T. I tried all of these like different versions. Finally found one. So that is one thing that you can do. Actually, if you guys do have, if anybody here has like a website, I guess you could use your own personal website's email, and then it'll just be like your name and your last initial. Those always look really professional as well. And then your phone number. Obviously, you want to make sure that that they call you, right? And you have your phone number. Actually, I'm going to pull up. I wanted to show you guys my resume, just so you can see it. So here is sort of a hybrid resume that I built for myself. This is not necessarily just like a personal training resume, which is why you can see, this is like the idea like if I was looking for, you know, more of like an education job, like in Sochi, the idea here is that like, you know, my title is program director rather than, you know, I'd probably put the word personal trainer here instead. And then you can see like what my role has been currently at Sochi, where I've worked in the past, and things like that. I actually don't like this is a little more personal trainer-y. This resume, I actually would probably swap out this boot camp instructor. If I were really trying to get another teaching job, I would probably swap this out for my volunteer, like public speaker experience when I was at Thirst Project. But you'll notice I don't have LA Fitness on here. It just didn't make it onto the resume in the end. You can see that like stuff kind of slowly disappears over time. And then down here, I put my certifications and my technical skills. I don't even have my degree on here. Didn't take the time to add it to my resume just because there's just not really enough space. But I've got everything that I wanted to like highlight on here, you know? So you can see what I decided to prioritize was my phone number, my email that I worked very hard to get. And then I put my LinkedIn profile, which will have a much better copy of like, basically, you know, this is much, much larger. So it's got like actually all of my, you know, education and all of my work experience and things like that on it. It's because LinkedIn just has like a lot more space for stuff like that. So that's sort of like my approach there. But really what we're looking here at the top, name. And then I normally wouldn't put my middle name in there. It's in my email. So I always felt like I'm like, I should probably put the whole thing. Just because it'd be weird to have one and not the other. Now it'll make it kind of seem like, I don't know, maybe that's just how I go. Also, sometimes I've used that to my advantage. This is totally not something you're going to read in a book or anything. But one thing that I firmly believe in is on an interview, trying to be kind of disarming as possible. Like I try to be pretty like, I'm very professional in an interview, but at the same time, I try to let my personality come through and show that like I'm friendly and like I have like a sunny disposition. So that's actually another one of the reasons why I will sometimes put my full name in there, because the weird like middle name being Lee and my name not being Bradley. It happened one time where somebody asked me about it and I was like, oh yeah, that's just because my parents were lazy and so they couldn't think of a middle name, so they decided to cut my name in half and that became my middle name. And so it makes a funny story and it's just something that I can say that's like friendly during an interview. Those little nuggets of things that just make you a little more interpersonal are kind of helpful. So I kind of left that as like a landmine in my resume. It only worked once, but hey, once is, you know, enough. So that's, don't purposely do stuff like that. That's you're not gonna find that anywhere in my notes. All right, so top of your resume. First thing you want to start with, this is something that I used to skip for years, and then I had a really good conversation with one of my bosses, like my manager at WellFit, who was like talking about how it's actually kind of an important part of a resume. It's one of his favorite parts of a resume. And I was like, really? The career objective part is just where you just write some BS at the top. Like your objective is to get a freaking job and pay your bills and work in the industry that you want to work in. And he's like, yeah, but that's not really what a career objective is. Like this is a chance for you to kind of get a little bit of your voice on your resume because your resume is very sterile. It's, you know, it's just a lot of data. This is where you can kind of give them a little bit of your personality. And so he kind of won me over with that, and I've kept it on here for years. And not to mention that, you know, everybody says you should do a career objective. So if you're like me, you may be tempted to skip this. I don't recommend it. He's really won me over, and yeah, it's actually one of my favorite parts of reading now. But what a career objective is it's a clear and concise statement providing your, this prospective employer with a sense of like who you are. This is a chance to get your voice out there and the type of like work experience that you might be pursuing. This is where you get to talk about like what you might be passionate about, which always shines through, especially in our industry, right? So like, if you are on your own like weight loss journey, and that's sort of what inspired you to like, have this idea of like training others, you could say something like that in your career objective, and like that's going to come through and shine, right? So You can go with the very basic version, which you'll see here as our example here in the PowerPoint in just a second, or you can go and get a little more like heartfelt with it in there. Primary purpose of your career objective is to give them an idea of like what your interests and what your goals are career-wise, and what you can offer your employer. You want to make sure that's very clear and well written. And you do have the choice to include it or not, but really it's really great. So we can see a couple of examples here. Recreational sports professional seeks responsibilities in structuring and programming innovative and traditional sport tournaments and events. Remember, this is from some textbook in like the leisure industry. I don't know. I think that this job is like somebody who's looking, I would assume that this is somebody who's looking for a job as like an athletic director, which when you hear athletic director, you're like, isn't that just like the manager of a personal training department? Kind of. This is the person who usually sets up, like, if you're working in like a club, you're going to set up like tennis tournaments and things like that. So it's like you're more managing the sports area than you are managing the sports people, I guess is a better way to think about it. But you can see here, like they're seeking responsibilities in structuring and programming innovative and traditional sports tournaments. So that's kind of fun, right? They're like, they're clearly showing that they want something that's unique, right? And then this one I really like, desire a fast-paced, challenging work environment in the tourism industry where hard work and creativity are encouraged. I really like that one. I think that's a great way to be like, look, I'm a hard worker and I want to work hard. So like, I'm looking for a job where like I can be challenged. They're looking for something fast-paced and challenging. That's great. Like if I was an employer and I was looking for that, I'm like, all right, cool. Well, this job can be hard sometimes. So love it. This one, the example that I put up here from something I found on the internet, I'm not as huge a fan of this one, but it is a basic, very simple career objective: to obtain an entry-level human resources position. As simple as this, I would put a period at the end. As simple as this is, one thing that I do really like about it though, it says entry level. So it's very clear that they're like, look, I get it. I'm a student, I'm new, I'm green. That's why I'm looking for an entry-level job. I want to start working so that I can build, and I want to start now. So like, I actually, as simple as this is, to me, there's actually a lot of subtext under here. This is somebody who has like awareness, which is, and this is just me being me, but like, I love awareness. Like, that is something that like I put a lot of weight on when I'm like evaluating someone. I love someone who is able to step back from being in the middle of something and see their situation like objectively. I value stuff like that in employees and in friendships and relationships and whatever. And so like the fact that I can see like this says entry level, I'm like, I like that. I that speaks to me. And everybody's different, but that's one that I like. Here's the one that I've got on my resume. This is just like me talking about like some of the stuff that I've done and hopefully describing accurately my personality. But highly creative and strategic professional with 8 years experience. I need to update that. Across a broad range of industry segments, skilled at analyzing infrastructure and planning needs to develop highly effective workplace processes, adept at managing permanent and volunteer staff with a specialty on ensuring audience education and well-being. So you can see that I'm kind of like straddling the line between like, this is not a resume for me to get a job as a personal trainer. This is a resume for me to get a job as like a manager, right? I'm talking a lot about like how I like developing infrastructure. I like developing, workplace processes, and that's kind of how, talk about Sochi. That is the stuff that I really like, homework every other day, 15 questions every single time. 12 days, 8 days, 10 days, hard class, easy class, program design class, fun class, right? I think that like the more structure is and stuff, the better it is, the more structured, because then it allows you guys to go a little bit on autopilot, right? But like not in such a way that like you stop caring. And so like that's something that's like kind of important to me. So I try to get like information like that out on my career objective. Hopefully somebody would read that and go, well, this guy is like a structured nut. That's great. We need someone who's very structured. So you guys are probably going to say something a little more along the lines, as like, new to the industry personal trainer, seeking, I don't know, an exciting work environment where I can make a big difference. That's actually what I used to, I wonder if I can find my really, I would keep it here. Personal fun, no. Be in here? No. Let's check about my old resume. I used to say when it was like personal training, I stole it from LA Fitness. I stole this sentence from LA Fitness. There was this poster. Robert, you might even know what I'm talking about because they used to have it plastered all over the walls at all LA Fitness locations. But there was this sentence that I really liked, and I was like, oh, that's great. But it was like, I'm looking for a place where I can motivate, inspire, and make a difference in as many clients as possible, or something like that. Yeah, that's what I used to say in my career objective. And when I wanted to work like one-on-one in personal training, that's exactly what I would say. God, I wish I could. If I find that, I will totally throw it up for you guys. So that is your career objective. Do you guys have any questions on that section? This is, to me, the most confusing part of the resume.
Does it matter how long we have our career objective? Like 1 or 2 sentences, 3 sentences?
Yeah, that's a good rule of thumb. 1 or 2 sentences, you don't want it to be a paragraph. I think mine is right on the border of being too long. Like, I actually did try to get this down to 3 lines. I remember working really hard and just being like, how the hell can I pare this down, But I mean, you guys have met me. I talk too much. Turns out I also write too much. But yeah, I would say 2 to 3 sentences at the most, or even 1 to 2 sentences. Again, this really super short one here, obtain an entry-level human resource. I don't hate that. I think that if you were to put that on your guys' resumes, like where you say something like your objective, I think I actually did put that. Just remembered, I built an example resume. Why don't I have that up as well? That's what this class, it's like, how do you teach resumes? So you just show a million different examples. Handouts, there's the resume example. So here's Jim Bob Bill. That's right. I let the class, I forgot the class named him. So Jim Bob Billy Bod is looking to find a job where he can highlight his skills in the field of personal training, as well as use their talents to make a tangible difference in people's lives. That's good, right? Like, that shows that like you're passionate about people, but it's also like you're looking for, to use the skills that you've developed in the personal training world, right? You don't want your education to be for nothing, clearly here, right? So I like that. And that, by the way, is what your template's going to look like. This is actually what I'm going to send you guys. You do not have to use this template, but when we get down to it, like, this is how we're going to build it, and it's got these little fields where you just click stuff and fill it in. I'll show you more of that later. A lot of people, there's a really good Google one actually that a lot of people like to use instead. I'm getting ahead of myself though. So yeah, I'd say 1 to 2 sentences, 1 to 3 sentences would be a good answer. All right, education records. You'll notice we're putting this second. That's not what I did on my resume. I think that's something, but that is something we did in our example version here. This is what you're often going to see. You're going to go right to education second. When you're new to the industry, that is where you're going to start, because like you may not have a lot of traditional experience yet. That's okay. It's not going to expect you to have tens of years of experience, but they do want to know that like you're talking about it, that you're moldable to be like a good trainer, right? So very essential component of a good resume, and is a priority for inclusion, especially when you're new in. So the name of your school that you attended, the degree that you received, for you guys, that's going to be personal fitness training certification. That's, by the way, I always say that you get 3 certs. Technically, you get 4 because Sochi's giving you 1, but it's a Sochi certification, which, nobody knows what that is. So it doesn't matter. I just realized that's on recording. Don't tell my boss. Whatever. I'll just have to go through and like mute that section and be like, I don't know what happened to the video. But you're going to talk about like what your field of study is, what type of classes you took, and you're going to put this in reverse chronological order, which means you are going to put whatever the newest education that you received is most recent. So if you guys graduate from Sochi and then you decide, to maybe go back to school and study something else. I know like plenty of our students graduate like the PFT program, and then they go right back in and they go get the massage program, and then they become like a massage and / personal trainer, so they can kind of do these duo sessions. You would put whichever program you finished first, which program you finished most recently at the top, and then whichever program you finished first like down below. Or if you decide to go get like, the same thing is true of your certifications, they go in reverse chronological order. So well, with the one exception I'll show you in a bit. So if you're attending, like I said, if you're attending more than one institution, list the most recent first. As a general rule of thumb, you can put your GPA down, but it's really only recommended if it's like a 3.25 or higher. Grades aren't really that important when it comes to like working in the real world, to be honest. I know that's like blasphemous for a teacher to say, but it's true. Like what they care about is like, are you going to be a good employee, but if your GPA is like plenty high, it shows that you are responsible, a lot of our students, like Sochi, I don't know if you guys ever even like get to hear about this. We don't talk about it enough, but like when you go to graduate, if your attendance is like 97% or higher, you get like a special cord at graduation, like this little like red cord that you wear. And if your GPA is like 4.0, you get another cord, and if it's both, you get a third one. But you can put stuff like that on your resume if you're trying to fill up some space. You'd put that under probably just like under the education section, just under like a description of it, and be like, hey, like I went to personal training school and I had the best attendance in class. So collegiate education record, right? You can see here, this is what somebody's got. So they went to ABC University in Anytown, USA. I love example stuff. It's so silly. Where they got like a BSA. So their GPA was 3.5 or 4. I don't know why they have, it's kind of interesting. I don't know why it's like two different numbers there. Oh, maybe it's out of 4.0, but every GPA is out of 4.0. So why would you, and then you can see like they kept it really simple. I think this is way too simple here, but they're just like, we took course emphasis in tourism management. All right, I need more information, so I kind of like this a little bit better, but even this is still really sparse. University of Tennessee, Chattanooga, BS in business administration, and I like this, expected graduation date, right? So this is clearly somebody who like is writing their resume. They haven't graduated yet. That's totally okay. And then they got a GPA of 3.1. I don't know. I think that's a little too low if I were going to put that on my resume. But let's go ahead and take a look at the example version that I've got here. Good old Jim Bob. So we put for education, we kept it really sparse, but I have been encouraging people to fill this out a little bit further. But you can see Southern California Health Institute in Reseda. They got their NASM CPT. I also am not a huge fan of the fact that like this is listed as, like acronyms. We don't like acronyms on resumes. 3.5 GPA, and then we took exercise physiology, kinesiology, corrective. They put some of the most important classes, right? I like that version. I don't think it's necessarily all that bad, but the more version, like the take we're gonna have today, we're gonna go a little bit more, a little bit more in depth with it. So we would put, your school name and your location, right? So we would say Southern California Health Institute. It is in Reseda. Actually, that's not true anymore. It's in North Hollywood, California, and we're studying personal fitness training because it is a PFT program. So I actually really like that version much better. And then what I have been kind of encouraging people to do is rather than just going like exercise, science, kinesiology, program design, fitness assessments, rather than just kind of listing stuff out like this, I kind of like the bullet point approach. on a resume like this, I probably wouldn't use circular bullet points. I'd probably go with like square, just because it's a little more, I don't know, it's a little sharper looking. And instead, I would say, something like took classes focused on, and then kinesiology, exercise science, fitness assessments, and program design. And then down here, I would say like another bullet point and be like, studied corrective exercise and working with special populations. And then I probably put one more like bullet point of information. Let's say something like, learned practical application of, actually, you know what? Practiced hands-on experience working with clients in nutrition. Let's say, we get the sports class coming up, athletics, and what's another class that's like somewhat unique? I'd go back to corrective exercise somehow. I'd just probably put corrective exercise again. I know it's a little bit doubling there, which I'm not, a little uncomfortable with, but like, obviously those are sort of the three most important things we kind of practice. Oh, you can have like behavior change.
Or like cardiorespiratory.
Oh yeah, there we go. And cardiorespiratory exercise. And that's pretty good. Like you can see like we're talking about like the classes that you took. There's the brainy part, right? Here's the corrective exercise and special populations part. Actually, I'd probably put that at the bottom, just because that's the part that like is somewhat unique to the Sochi program. So it's like that one's gonna kind of stand out. And then like here's the hands-on stuff, right? And then, if you wanted to, you could probably put another one down there and say something like, learned how to template, applied practical program design methods for youths, seniors, weight loss, clientele, and athletes. There's your 4 program design classes. So we've got information about the fact that you studied nutrition. We've got information about the 4 populations that we mainly work with, right? Youth, seniors, weight loss, and athletes. We mentioned we could mention the behavior change stuff, like how to work with like the habits. If you're going into a place that's like a little more, like a little more like coaching, that's where maybe you mentioned the behavior change stuff. It depends on where you guys kind of want to find yourselves, like it's definitely going to depend on what section of the industry you want to find yourself. Are you just going to work one-on-one with clients in like a very traditional bare bones gym setting? Great, love it, go do that. You want to work online from home, teaching group exercise in front of like a green screen or something? I had a student who like, I remember this is like when I first started at Sochi, she was literally in my first class. Her name was Amber. And like, she wasn't like really a student of mine, technically. I just came in, like the first class I ever taught was capstone. So I had her for 4 weeks out of the full 6, because I, started in the middle of the mod. But like she graduated and it was awesome. She came back and visited and I was like, how you doing? Like, how's the job hunt going? And she found a job teaching spin out of her living room. She worked for this like new company. Basically they're doing what Peloton is doing, where they have these like group exercise classes on video on like the bike. And the company sent her this like green screen kit. She showed me like all these crazy pictures and she just set them up in her living room. Which is kind of funny because I was like, you didn't have another room to put that in? And then like a spin bike in front of it. And then they sent her like a camera and, she would film these spin classes. She got that job, like seriously, like 4 weeks outside of graduating. She was making like really good cash doing it. So, if she knew she was going into a place like that, you don't want to get to a place where you're changing your resume all the time, guys, but you do kind of want to like update your resume. Like I have 2 or 3 different resumes, I've got a very traditional personal training one just in case I ever need it. although I can't find it right now. I got the program director one, and then I've got one that is really just like outside, really just for the corporate business world in case I ever need it. I made that one just for fun. And that one's if like I ever decide to just, quit teaching and go work like a 9 to 5, in some cubicle, which I'll never ever do. At least I have it. So, it just kind of depends on like how you're going to highlight your information. All right. So that's kind of an example. This is how I like education a lot more. I prefer this to the sort of like simple version here, which is just, commas. And I prefer it to what we see here, which is just what they took and then just when they're going to graduate and their GPA. Like that's way too basic for me. Any questions on that? Comments? Notes. Where's my notes? Feeling good, guys? Okay, now this is what's really cool. One of the reasons I picked, one of the reasons we like this template is it's got a couple different places for experience. Now, in this version, we just put experience, and we got 3 personal training examples, right? Not bad. But you can see in the template, it's actually got different, oh no, it actually doesn't. Oh, that's actually weird. Okay, never mind. One of the things that you can do though, is you can put 2 different sections of work experience. So one of the things I always encourage people to do is actually to go like this and have related work experience and non-related work experience. And that shows that like if anybody in this call or anybody who's watching this, like if you guys have experience working in like somewhat of the personal training or fitness industry, that's the stuff that you can sort of put up top, even if it breaks that scheme of like most recent to least recent, which is how we want to do our experience. That's how we want to list things out. But if you can do like a version like that, where you're showing, again, it shows awareness that you're like, look, I get it. Like I don't have a lot of experience, but here's me very clearly showing you what I think is relevant, while also showing you what I think just shows you that I'm a really good employee, So I always like kind of having 2 different sections of work experience if I'm a brand new. This is what was on my very first resume. I had like, when I was trying to get a job at LA Fitness, and this is more than I needed to do because I worked at the front desk. So in the end, I don't even know if they ever actually looked at my resume. I just knew the training manager. I was like, hey, Freddie, do you want to hire me? The front desk guy. But I still wrote in a resume anyways, and I put, related work experience, like, hey, like I, have been working at the front desk here. And then my non-related work experience was like, I was 18. It was like, I worked at my dad's moving company. I know how to lift heavy stuff, it's non-related, but it does show that like I know how to work, oh, hold on, I forgot. So finishing up education here, it's essential, right? Put your name of your school, any online classes or workshops that you've taken, vocational school, and put it in reverse chronological order. Put the most recent first. Relevant work experience. So relevant work experience includes any full or part-time jobs or volunteer jobs that you've had related to the industry that you're applying for. So I would even say, in the future, let's say you guys end up, let's say maybe you've worked after school with kids, doing like sports or something like, after school soccer or football or whatever. And then you've also worked as a personal trainer. And then you are trying to get a job as like a group fitness instructor, like a boot camp instructor, right? Well, personal training is very different from boot camping, and after school programs are very different from, traditional adult exercise. So, which one is most relevant? I'd probably say like related work experience, personal training. Then I'd say like non-related work experience that's very transferable. I'd put that after school program. And then that shows that you as a professional, you're like, look, I get it. The after school program wasn't like an official job. I wasn't working with adults, but like, it just shows that I know how to manage a group. And then here's my related stuff. Clearly, I know how to also work in the world of adult exercise. So again, like you're just showing awareness, right? It's okay to recognize the fact that you guys are new and green, you know? People appreciate it actually. So include your full-time, your part-time, your volunteer jobs. List the name, the city and the date that you were there, and then the dates of your employment, month and year. When you're putting it, you don't have to put like a specific day. Be like, I started there on December 13th. You don't need to do that. Just December 2018 to, you know, if it's you're still currently working there, you're gonna put present, or whenever your actual dates were. So that's your relevant stuff, right? Name of the business, dates you work there, the location. I will say, I'll put a little asterisk next to this. Location, if you can find a place to fit it really cleanly. But sometimes location is not super relevant. But generally, like it's helpful, you know. Include information about your responsibilities. When you're doing this, when you're putting your responsibilities down, you want to use action verbs and power words to describe this. This is where like you kind of want to like, you know, use your vocabulary to kind of highlight the fact that you worked hard at these places or that you were really responsible, right? It can be in paragraph form or it can be in bullet form. Both really work. You can see we kind of like when we went to the education side of things, you know, we kind of did like a hybrid version here. This is like both bullet points and it's almost like a paragraph, right? It's just little sections. Sometimes people will be really just like bullet point, bullet point, bullet point, bullet point. And don't worry, this is going to 2 pages. We're going to fix that in the end. So going back, where was I? So you can see here, this is a very hybrid version as well. They've got a paragraph up top and then bullet points down below, right? So related work experience, sample 1, they worked at XYZ Sports Agency and blah, 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 blah. And they worked there June 2001 to current. They were the recreation supervisor, that was their title. And then they can see they have like, it was a managerial position with a nonprofit responsible for this and that and blah, blah, blah. And then you can see like some key bullet points of like things that they did while they were there. You know, they managed an operating budget, a bunch of full-time employees. You know, that's pretty solid. I really like this. This is somebody who's pretty dang established. I don't think a lot of people are going to have as much experience as this on your work experience. So I don't think this, I like this, but I'm not sure it's exactly relevant to the way our resumes are gonna look. So I actually really like this version here. This is a very watered down kind of basic version, but again, you can see relevant versus other experience here. They were an intern, sales associate, and student worker. And look at the dates. See how this one's like 2005, but here is like 2003 to present. So this is actually the most recent, but this person's trying to get an HR job. So their related experience, they've got human resource intern up top, even if it wasn't, you know, a ton of experience, it's the most relevant to what they are applying for. So, you know, yes, this is the most recent, but this is the most relevant. This is what we call a functional resume, right? It's very functional because like the most important information is up top. That's why we put education at the top in one version, but like on my resume, you know, I put my work experience instead. So, and I went with the bullet point version here. You can see. Let's go and take a look here again at how we can fill out some of this work experience, right? So if we go down to related work experience, and we're gonna put like let's say like a job title here, like, and it's somewhat related to the fitness industry, but you know, it's not necessarily super regular, you know, training for like a job, right? One thing that I've had students do in the past, and I'm not necessarily against this, I don't know how it would necessarily work with like pandemic world here, but remember Mo's capstone class, there's a 6-week period that is literally meant to be, we call it practicum, right? So capstone split into 2 different sections. You've got practicum and you get test prep. The test prep is exactly what we usually end up talking about. It's usually how I highlight what capstone is, but the practicum section is meant to be like every day you get into the gym and you work out. It's the only time in the whole program where I tell people like, maybe use Sochi as your workouts. Like generally I let you guys use, you know, little 5-pound dumbbells and stuff. Like I don't bring too much heavy equipment. Because the workouts we do in the park are not meant to be stuff that leaves you so sore. You know, a lot of people have their workouts and we don't want Sochi to like interfere with that. With the exception of capstone. I always tell people like, let capstone be your workout time. Maybe take a break from the gym while you're in that practicum, because like that's where you as students are kind of working with other students to like train them. And so I've had people, we call that like the Sochi clinic. Because it's kind of like a clinic where you're working regularly with clients. So I've had students at Sochi put as a job title, like personal trainer intern at, and this is the only place I would use like an acronym if you are going to use it, but Southern California Health Institute. And then it would be, you know, whatever, you know, 6 weeks you did it. I would probably just put like the month that it was in. We'll just say November 2020. You know, we'll kind of keep that really simple. And then this is just going to be like a brief description of what it was. Practiced. All right, I don't like the word practice. Trained fellow students in personal training sessions in one-on-one person. That should be hyphenated. On one personal training sessions. Right. I don't dislike it, but I also don't love it. This is where I used to got to get like a little creative about stuff, you know? You know what? I'm probably just going to go back to the bullet point format. Bullet point format worked earlier. Let's do it again. Train fellow students in one-on-one personal training sessions, but you would have also had to start with fitness assessment. Assessed. Oh my gosh, what do I want to do? Oh, you know what? Here we go. Took clients through a full fitness assessment in order to develop a well-rounded program to address any muscle yeah, we'll go imbalances. There we go. And then train fellow students in one-on-one personal training sessions. There we go. So what is it meant to be? Like if, you know, a lot of students have like called that sort of an intern section, took them through a full fitness assessment in order to develop a well-rounded program, evaluated their goals in order to develop an effective program, and then train them in one-on-one personal training sessions. So you can see we're going through that classic step 1, step 2, step 3, right? Assess, write the program, train them. And then non-related work experience. Can I get a volunteer? Can somebody give me a non-related work experience job that they've had? Something they're doing that isn't necessarily related directly to this, but shows that you're just responsible?
Working as an electrician.
Oh my God, heck yeah. That's like a 9-to-5 job. So we'll go electrician. All right, what's our company name?
Interior Services.
What is it?
Interior Services.
Interior Services, right? And when did you work there from?
It was from January of this year till maybe like March. No wait, May. My bad, May.
So we can do that, right? So we could say something like that, and then like you would give a brief description. Now, here's what's kind of fun. We did this version, and I just kind of like made it all up myself. Charlie, let's say you're having trouble getting inspired and talking about what your job is, right? Let's just say you're writer's blocked, right? Well, you know what kind of works really well for me whenever I'm trying to figure out what to put on this section? I will go like this. Indeed.com and I'm gonna look for a job as, oh, I went to Indeed on a regular tab. Oh, I'm gonna get ads. Oh, I'm gonna get so many ads. Sorry. Oh. Electrician. All right, so electrician weekender. I'm just gonna click this first one. Oh, look at this. It's a whole bunch of like what the description of a job is and the qualifications are as like an electrician and what your job will be. I love going to these and just finding somebody who did a much better job writing than I will do. And I'll just take a couple key sentences here, right? Obviously, I want to pick the ones that are true. For instance, Charlie, would you say that you did support, troubleshoot, improve, and maintain high-speed production and package? Did you package machinery?
No.
Probably not. Yeah.
Like, installations, you know.
What is it?
Installations, like yeah.
All right, let's find that. Electrician installation. Go away! Don't you dare. That one's not helping a ton. Oh, there we go. The job is, no, that's not good. Foreman electrician. Hey, here we go. Responsibilities. Oh God, these are all supervisory stuff. Certified electrician. We'll find one. We'll find one. But this is how I honestly sometimes like to find my sentences when I'm helping students, because like sometimes it's just hard to figure out like what to say. I'm sure you might have some ideas already. I'm just trying to prove that this works. Okay, here we go. Did you install, repair, maintain electrical systems in accordance with the National Electric Code?
Yeah.
Hell yeah. All right, so copy. And paste, which is going to paste really weird because it's going to auto format. So we're not going to do that. We are going to put our bullet point in here and we're going to retype it. Ooh, you changed my font. Don't do that. All right. Installed, repaired, and maintained electrical systems in accordance with National Electric. The National Electric. Boom. Right? So this is one of my favorite ways to kind of find this information. Now, obviously, you don't need to do this, guys. Like if you know what your freaking job responsibilities were and everything like that, you don't need to do this. But a lot of times when I'm having a hard time finding inspiration, you know, Charlie, did you inspect electrical systems and equipment for any damage, malfunctions, and safety hazards?
Yeah, we did.
Boom. Paste, right?
This is also a good idea because sometimes they word it a little differently. I wouldn't say it like that. You know, probably be a little dumbed down. So.
Yeah, if you want to like that's the thing too, right? Like if you want to, you know, make any adjustments here. What the heck happened to that bullet point? Why isn't that all the same size? 12. There we go. Calibri. Oh, you went to Helvetica. Don't do that. Calibri. So, and there we go, right? I can honestly keep it simple. We don't need 3 bullet points on every one, but that's a decent version of your non-related work experience. So now we can just simply go here and, you know, maybe even we can add another one, but actually notice how we're going down to 2 pages here. I can remove this 3rd one, you know? I can just kind of get rid of this section right here, delete cells. And then I'll need to put the skills thing back up here. You here. And then this section, I need to, where's this? There are a bunch of invisible rows here if you can't see them. Here, I'll show you actually, so you guys know what I'm doing here. It looks like that. So let's get rid of these cells. Or is this part of the cell? There we go. Delete. Cool. And then obviously we don't want that to show on our resume, so no border. All right. Cool. So now we've kind of modified a little bit of this, right? We've got our education up here. We've got our related experience. We have our non-related work experience, right? And it's going to show just a little bit about like who we are. You can see here on my resume, I wanted my work experience to basically be, you know, the main chunk of like what I've done in my career. So you can see here I am as the program director here at Sochi, what my jobs are, right? I talk about a little bit about like asset and BPPE requirements. Again, I don't like putting acronyms, but I had a really hard time getting this to be one page. So I kind of broke that rule a little bit. But you can see, right? Job title, location. I put the city that it was in and when I worked there. Job title, location, city that was in, when I worked there. This is also an example of like, technically these were two separate jobs. Like I worked at I worked at Biggest Loser, then decided to move back to Oregon for a little bit, and immediately Biggest Loser closed down like a month later. Not because I left. That'd be great. That'd be the biggest confidence booster in the world, but it just happened to be at the same time. And then the reason I moved back to LA was, number one, I was kind of missing my life down here. And number two, like all of the management from Biggest Loser got together, and because they were all friends, and they were like, hey, should we just open our own resort? And so they talked to the owner of the property, and that's how WellFit Malibu came to be. So when you guys hear me say that, like when I'm talking about my past and stuff, when I say like Biggest Loser sometimes, or I say WellFit, they're kind of the same thing to me. But technically these are two separate jobs, and that's why this is over 4 years. Unfortunately, WellFit didn't last very long because the owners of the property found out that it would be much more profitable to put a hotel there.
I got a question.
Yeah, what's up?
So the Biggest Loser is like that TV show, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you was on the TV show?
No. No. So I worked here. I worked for the Biggest Loser Resort, which is owned by the TV show. And what it is it's a resort where people can go and they can do the same thing that people do on the show, essentially. Like you can get the same kind of experience. You stay in these little cabins, you wake up in the morning, you go on like a 2-hour hike, and then you go to a bunch of group exercise classes. And they, in some locations, make them wear the shirts, which is stupid. We didn't do that at our location. But I did work at so I was not on the show. However, I worked at the Malibu location, which, you know, you're seeing pictures of the Niagara location here. There's Niagara, there's Chicago, there's a bunch of different locations across the US. The Malibu location was technically like the first, and it was like, it had a partnership with the show. So you know how, like, have you ever watched that show? Have you guys watched that show?
Yeah, I seen The Biggest Loser, right?
Yeah. So here's what's crazy. I've actually only watched one episode of the show ever. But what happened is, you know how like they would get voted off the show, but sometimes like that didn't mean you couldn't still win the competition. The competition was to lose as much weight as possible. But if you got voted off the show, you didn't have access to all the trainers and this and that. You could still win because, you know, you could go home and keep losing weight. But it was harder because obviously you don't have access to all the personal training and stuff. Well, here's the dirty little secret. They didn't go home. They came to me and a lot of the other trainers. So I was like an off-camera trainer while also working in the resort setting. So we had a lot of the guests who were, you know, while on the show in with like a lot of our regular guests. And that way they could still keep like losing weight and still keep competing. And that is literally what killed the show, by the way. In the end, I don't know if you guys ever saw this finale, but the show, I think they brought it back recently, but like the show died after this one season. Rachel Fredrickson. So this girl right here, Rachel, was a guest at our resort, and you will notice, you know, her before and after pictures, that is a super thin person. And you see her face right there? That is the face she made when she came out on stage, completely rail thin. Bob and Jillian, the two hosts of the show, both kind of freaked out because Rachel was dangerously underweight, because honestly, I kind of hate the show. It is not very good for you to get that skinny. And so honestly, that season is the season that killed the show. And Rachel would she'd be in the gym exercising like 3-4 hours a day on top of all of the stuff we were putting her through. And like all of us as like staff, we were like basically banned from like even training her, because we were trying to get her to like calm down and stop exercising so much because of how dangerous it is. It's incredibly unhealthy. And you know, she would like skip lunch to go get on the spin bike, you know? And I get it. Like, yeah, I remember having a conversation with her, like, you know, she was doing it to win $500,000, you know, like she did it to win this competition, not because she was clinically trying to be unhealthy or anything like that. She just wanted to win the show, and she did. So, but it killed the show. Like the ratings for that, like that was like this huge drama thing. And it literally like, that was the last season. So that's where I was, Noel. But not officially on the show or anything like that. But
this should go down in history, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of cool to be there when it died, you know. This girl I was dating at the time was a huge fan of the show. It was like her favorite show on TV. She was obsessed. And yeah, she was like, she thought it was, you know, I was like telling her all this shady stuff, and she's like, I don't want to hear it. And I was like, no, it's bad. Anyway, all right. So non-related work experience, like I said, it's exactly the same thing, right? You're going to use your highlighted work. You're going to highlight your work ethic, even if it's not relevant to the position you're applying for, to show that you are a hard worker. Intern experience can go here. Volunteering can go here. Memberships, awards, and honors, things like that can go here. Anything that's like just shows that you are like dedicated, right? I had like a lot of intern stuff on my resume for years because I was like, I just don't have any work experience, you know? You can totally put stuff like that. Professional involvements, if you're the member of like a club or something, you know, you can put stuff like that on there if you were in charge of like, you know, organizing that club, memberships and things like that. So you can see here, you can see like professional involvements, right? This person was a member of the National Parks Association, resort, something. Presentations, they did like specific presentations. They've got a publication in a journal. That's one that's kind of interesting. I've had students who will actually put like YouTube episodes that they've been on. You don't put like a link or anything like that. That'd be crazy. But you can list something like, you know, I was on an episode of this on this YouTube channel. And so you can kind of list it out like that. Or if you've got like something that you wrote, if it gets published in like a magazine. My friend Rebecca, I used to, she would come in and bring her resume and stuff to class sometimes. And I pointed out one time she had like she's gotten published a couple times in like magazines, just like little articles about like, you know, tips and tricks for how to avoid overeating at Thanksgiving. You know, she had like a couple articles about stuff like that because she's a dietitian. So you can include stuff like that in your non-related experience, right? That can kind of go here, and you can list it out, you know, maybe just add a section header, and then you would put it here and say, you know, something like publications or you know, appearances or things like that. Awards and honors, like I said, if you want to put that, I put that in the skills and abilities section. But if you want to put like, you know, you have like an attendance award or GPA award, something like that, that's great. I've seen people, and I don't dislike it. Like I said, I've seen people who will put like how much. I had a guy put how much he can deadlift one time here. which I think is kind of silly, but at the same time, maybe that's just me being biased, because another time I saw somebody who put an application, they were a pretty good candidate. They just couldn't talk in public very well. But they put that they were like a podium finisher at like one of these like, fairly big marathons. And I was like, that's a huge deal. If you're coming in third at a freaking marathon, like thousands of people are running, that's a big deal. You know how to train. But they wouldn't have been a very good teacher. So here you can see like awards and honors. You can put stuff like that. Any activities, if you are a member of any club and stuff like that, if you do want to include that, that's not necessarily a bad idea. You can see like this person, and they're just listing it out, like just bullet point list, right? Activities, vice president of this, volunteer at this, right? Again, that's putting your volunteer work. So here's an example of somebody who has some of this. So we saw their relevant work experience, their non-relevant work experience, and you can see like some honors and activities, and they don't have a skills section. I think a skills section is a little more valuable personally, but I don't dislike this. If you have a lot of awards, activities, and honors and volunteer work, guys, throw it down there and remove the skills section. Me personally, I like the skills stuff. I think that's where you can kind of show off like your flavor and stuff. So here's on my resume, for instance, you can see it just goes straight from work experience right into my certifications, which we're about to get into, and right into like what I think, I say core competencies because I'm trying to be fancy, but it's just skills. So I've got technical skills, word processing. MindBody Online is a POS system. So this is like for doing like personal training sales. So I wanted to show people that I know how to use MindBody. And Google Calendar, I know how to update that. Marketing stuff, Google Tag Manager, which is helpful if you end up being somebody who needs to do that. And in project management stuff, I know how to use Slack and Asana and Caminize and the Adobe suite, So these are all kind of the technical skills that I want to show people that I know how to use. And then here are the certifications that I'm running around with, right? And I only put my NASA ones. I honestly should probably swap out this regular CPT one. I mean, honestly, it's very clear that I've got the, there's no way that I don't know that I have the CPT. I probably put my TRX up here, or maybe I put like, actually, you know what? Yeah, that's right. I don't have my other resume, but the other one has, my special skills, and I put like TRX and kettlebells and things like that down there. So let's kind of go back to our example version here, which is this one. So under special skills, again, this is another area. I don't necessarily need you to, I don't think like bullet points, but maybe bullet points. Let's see what looks the best. Now, anybody in here bilingual? Anybody speak 2 languages?
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yes,
that is huge. I wish that I didn't. I wish that I'd learned a second language, because now my brain is broken and it just won't learn. But you're going to put bilingual. That is a big one. And then you're going to put like what languages you speak, right? So English, Spanish, right? Maybe you speak Italian. I don't know. Anybody trilingual? Good Lord. So there's, you're going to put like which languages you speak, and include English on there. I know, obviously, your freaking resume is in English, but like put it, it's the 2 languages that you speak. So it is weird, but yes, put English up there. Then you can put other special skills like, let's say some that are relevant to our industry, right? Let's say suspension, TRX / suspension training. That would be a really good example of something. If you guys know how to work on those straps, that's super helpful. Kettlebells. Oops, that's 3 T's. Kettlebell. Actually, we can just say kettlebells. If anybody knows how to do Olympic lifts, That's a huge one. If you know how to clean or you know how to snatch, both those are really, really helpful. Noel, you played after school football, right? So yeah, I would say like football. Actually, you know what? I would probably put that down here. I'd go like athletics, and then say like football. If you know how to work, like, you know, if you do like a lot of specific like basketball drills. Oh, you know what? And honestly, up here on this, I'd also put like SAQ training. Speed, agility, and quickness. They'll know what that means. You could actually just put ooh, yeah. See, this is where this is like a problem that you sometimes run into when you don't like you really don't want to use acronyms, but at the same time, if I put another comma here, it's like your special skills are speed, agility, and quick. Right? Like it doesn't really work. So we are gonna go with an acronym here. Speed, SAQ, training. And athletics, right? So these are pretty good special skills. I kind of like this version here. Here's the thing. I could have done bullet points, right? I could have easily done that on all of these, and then just, you know, maybe even like have them each as like a separate bullet point. You know, I could totally do something like that, and then it really fills up some space. It's not a bad idea, but I kind of like how clean this looks, and it shows that you've got 3 different sections here. You've got some skills that are not necessarily training related, they're just skills that you have. There's very much some training stuff, and there's very much like athletic stuff. This is like an in-session thing here, or maybe actually I guess SAQ, we could put that down here. Right? And then here's like the stuff that's like on the gym floor, and here's the stuff that's sports specific. Or maybe we just put all this, maybe we put all this back up here. And then on this third line, oh, see, we're running out of space. But we go down here and we say like your other stuff. Like, let's say you have like technical skills, computer-wise or something, right? You're gonna be like word processing, right? So you know how to use like Microsoft Word and stuff. Let's say like POS sales. So like, you know how to use like a POS system, which would be something like mind body or anything like that, if you have experience doing that. Let's pick one more just so we can get 3. What's another good one that would be somewhat relevant to our industry? It's kind of social media. I know it's kind of crazy, but that's actually a big one in today's, because a lot of gyms nowadays are actually expecting trainers to post stuff and make Instagram live videos and stuff like that. It's weird, but it is something we're seeing. So you can see like I've got kind of 3 different sections of skills here, right? I didn't need to do that, but that's a version of what this could look like. So now we've got our experience and stuff. So now we kind of need to dive into, oh, here we go. Communication skills, written and verbal, computer skills. Yeah, Microsoft, POS, and then typing 70 words per minute if you have those. Where's my notes? There they are. So now, what not to include. Let's talk about like what, oh, hold on. Actually, certifications, because the PowerPoint does a bad job on this. Certifications, include any of the certifications that you have. The big ones you guys are walking away with. You've got your NASM CPT, which is not a specialization. It is a, you know, national certification. Then you've got your CES, which is not a full certification. That's a specialization, right? So when you go up here, I like to kind of highlight the fact that those are different from each other. And so when I go up to my certifications, your big one is National, and this should be, we'll put this in bold, National Academy of Sports Medicine. And that is your certified personal trainer. And then you can put CPT, right? That's, it says that's what certified personal trainer is, but like there's where you're kind of highlighting that, right? And then we'll say like when you got it, let's say you guys are graduating, we'll say January 2021, right? Let's put that in italics. That'll look kind of sharp. And then let's make sure there's not too much space between these two. Let's put our next one. Corrective exercise specialist. Yes. Right. And that'll also be January. Whoops, it's bold. It's not italics. January 2021. Right. And then we'll put. No. Stop it. Maybe weird. Zero. Boom. And then we'll put just a little bit of space after. There we go. That's not too bad looking, right?
How
Oh,
long we got it? Yo, Brad.
What's up?
How long we got until we graduate?
Everybody's different. I'm sorry, no, I don't have that memorized. 9 months from when you started. I wish I could tell you. I don't know. It's the only ones that I do know are the ones who are like about to graduate, because then I can. It's very close. Like Robert and Irene, this is their last mod with me. So because of that, they'll have 2 mods left, which means it'll be 60 days, or well, not 60 days. 90 days from like January 3rd. So somewhere around there. But I don't know what your day is, unfortunately, and I don't know what Charlie's is. It's hard for me to math it out if it's not close. By the way, I forgot one of your special skills that everyone should be including: CPR. And make sure you have your CPR card up there. So there's where we got our certifications listed. I like this version. It's not bad. We could always change this up a little bit if we wanted to, right? I could maybe try goofing around with this format. I think this is the one that saves us the most space, which is the one that I like here, because we're clearly having a little bit of spacing issues. We're gonna have to figure out how to get this whole thing to kind of fit on our example resume here in a little bit, which, you know, I'm gonna tackle here at the end. So include your certifications. I don't usually put CPR under certifications, but you can, you know. I think in the example version we did actually. Yeah, here's a really, really basic version, right? NASM, CPT, CES, FNS. And then they did maybe they got TRX as well, and American Red Cross CPR. I don't personally like this version, but you know, it's not bad. What not to include on a resume? Don't put your personal information, right? Again, I don't like the idea of putting like your actual physical address. That's weird. Don't include pictures. Again, I cannot say that enough. I used to get so many resumes with just like, they just had, you know, they just had put it up here in the header, and it was like they put in a picture of like their face, and it's just like, why? Why is your face on your resume? I don't care what you look like. And then do not put your salary needs or your salary information in the past on your resume. It can come up. You're not going to bring it up in a first interview. You are going to definitely tackle salary information, but don't put it on your resume. It's just very tacky. And then when you're organizing it, make sure that you are following like this very clear layout, right? Obviously, that's going to make this easy to read. So if we're looking, you know, at this resume here, right? Education is easy. I know this is the education section, certification section, related work experience, right? This is very cleanly laid out and very easy to read. I'm gonna kill some of that space there. There are a couple different types of resumes out there. There is the chronological style, which is experience in reverse chronological order. My resume is an example of that. You know, 2016, back to 2012, back to 2008. So this is a chronological resume, right? Very kind of simple. Functional resume is a little bit different. That's when you do things by category. That's sort of what we're doing in this version here. This is a functional resume. You're trying to highlight the fact, this again is a very much like a starter resume. This is like when you're new to the industry and you're just starting out, this is how you're going to organize it, right? Put your information into chunks and show like what your education is and things like that. Hybrid's kind of putting the two together, always, always, always keep your resume to 1 page. That is a freaking rule. Do not use silly fonts. No Comic Sans on resumes. Look at this. We do not want your resume. We take this lovely, very professional looking resume, and then we can just ruin it with a dumb font. Are you kidding me? No. So no Comic Sans, don't get too fancy with it. Stuff like this. This isn't necessarily a terrible font, but like, look at how hard to read some of those letters are, right? Bondschrift light, I don't know. None of that. The most acceptable formats that you're going to see in terms of fonts, the big one that you're going to hear people say is Times New Roman. This is like the old school classic font. Times New Roman is like what newspapers are kind of written in. I think this is pretty outdated. This is where I've been disagreed with by our actual career services director. She is the actual expert, not me. She is the one who is literally a resume guru. But she's all about Times New Roman. I think Times New Roman is outdated and makes you look like an old fogey, and our industry is just not like that. So I personally don't think that's a really good one. But Arial, Times New Roman, or Calibri, those are the three. Those are the 3 fonts you want to go. Don't go smaller than 10 point. Don't go larger than 14 point, the exception being your name. That can be really large, but everything else should be around 12 is like perfect. I think most of this is 11 actually. Yeah, 11s, 12s. The name can be larger. That's it. Every other part of your font, don't go smaller than 10. It's too hard to read. Don't go larger than 14. It looks silly. Emphasize your key points by using bold, capitals, or italics, but never use more than one at one time. So don't go bold and italics. I think underline is always bad. But all capping something is kind of helpful. We can see we did that a couple times in our example copy here, right? Like your name, for instance. Your objectives, your section headers, those are all in all capitals. And then like where you're applying. But here, we went with like smaller versions. So that's going to be a really helpful way to do things. Emphasize, right? Like I said, using those. Avoid abbreviations with like CPR can be okay. CPT is an exception. That's okay. NASM is not. Use National Academy of Sports Medicine. And avoid ampersands. We never ran into this, but do not use and symbols, right? This is definitely not something you want to do. Avoid, make sure you're using the proper grammar. Avoid any spelling mistakes. That's going to be huge. One of the best ways to do that is just print your resume and send it to a friend, have them read it, print it again, send it to another friend, have them read it, have it sent out to a couple different people. All of them are going to and have them mark up your resume and look for any spelling errors that they happen to find or sentences that they don't like. The more people you run it by, the clearer it's going to look. That's why I'm here to help you guys. You guys are going to write the resumes. I'm going to be here to kind of help with things. So generally, we like chronological over functional in the long run, but you guys are very new to the industry, so start with functional. Bullet points are really helpful for making information to be easy to read. And then when you print your resume, just use white paper. Do not use any of that colored stuff, and don't use color on your resume itself. I'm seeing more and more of that nowadays. You'll see resumes like this. If you go to Canva, it's this website that lets you do, basically like fancy imaging and stuff. This is how I make like all the thumbnails for the YouTube videos. But you can see here, I'm seeing more and more resumes like this nowadays. They're not terrible. Like if I was hiring a graphic designer or like an actor, or if I was hiring like, somebody in like the entertainment industry, I don't hate these resumes, these work pretty well. But like, if I'm hiring a personal trainer, I don't need a bright orange resume. And I know that your name is Benjamin Shaw. I don't need you to have BS in the corner of your resume, you know? I just think that stuff like this is a little over the top, and it's just not very traditional. Probably another 20 years, I want to be an old fogey, and this is going to be, you know, totally what resumes look like nowadays. But as of now, it's just too modern. It just doesn't really work that well. So just keep it simple, black and white, you know? So summarizing everything up, make sure that your information is laid out as favorably as possible. The only part of the job search, the only part of the job search process over which you applicant have 100% of your control. You know, when it comes to job hunting, you can't make someone call you in. You can't make someone ask you questions that are easy for you to answer. The one thing that you can do is write a really solid resume. You are completely in control over this. And that's what I'm here to help you guys with when we meet in person. Know what your content is, specifically like what's relevant, what's not relevant, and try to lay it out in such a way that is, you know, fast. Usually you have about 60 seconds, by the way. You have about 60 seconds on your resume. That's about how long somebody will take to read it. We all want to think that people will take all the time in the world to read the whole thing, but it just doesn't really work that way. All right, really quickly, I want to finish up formatting this resume example here. So we're going to put Van Nuys, California. I'm going to put my email and my phone number. Career objective, looking to obtain an entry-level personal training job where I can have a positive impact on as many lives as possible. Simple. Right? We're not going too crazy with it. Now, we got this goofy problem of having too much space here. So, also, I think this would look better if it was bolded. So what we're going to do is we're going to just remove a little bit of space from all of these categories. You can see here, right? Paragraph, this has got 9 spaces at 105. I'm just going to change that at 1. Actually, you know what? We're just going to change that. Yeah, 9. All right, and then we're going to go here. How much space is here? Oh, that can't be right. All right, let's take a look here. What's going on? You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do this. I'm going to look at all the boxes here real quick. Why do you have so much space at the end? Blah. Oh, is it here? No. Sorry, this is like word processing stuff. I know this is not. This is riveting stuff right now, right, guys?
I love how you're showing us how to be very meticulous with this whole form, because this is really your first impression.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. You are way overqualified, Brad.
Ah,
That's why you can't fit it all in one page.
I don't necessarily think that's true, but I appreciate the compliment. It's very nice. What the heck is going on here? Why does this have awkward spacing? All right. Just a little bit less. Is it here? Is it because the table has a set size? It does, as a preferred height. That's what it is. None of that. Oh, that wasn't it. I was so confident. I was sure that was it.
Hey, yo, Brad.
Yeah, what's up?
You can use the same type of graph as Microsoft Word as Excel, right?
I don't think you're going to have a very easy time building I mean, yeah, you can see this is like a table
Resume.
here. I don't think you're gonna have a very easy time trying to build a resume in Excel. But that's what we're here for, you know? That's why like I'm trying to meet with you guys in person so that we can make sure that like we get you a resume built in Word so that it looks kind of standard. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Do we need like the a USB port? Do we need one of those when we come?
You can always just email it to yourself and just save it in your email forever, you know? This is nuts. Why is this not working? It was the empty cell to the left. Did I fix it? No, still? All right, fine. We'll do this. Fine. Layout, page setup. Oh, well. Oh, we got closer. We're getting there, guys. I will figure this out. Why is this? Oh my God, I'm so dumb. Is that literally what it is? No, okay. Why can't I figure this out? It's gonna be so simple when I figure out what's going on. I'm gonna be so upset. Specify height. No, do not specify height.
And your tenacity of perfection.
Ah!
You're just trying to get it all in one, right?
Yeah, it's got to be one page. Always. It's really important. It should
What
be.
if you put your information in the header? Would that work, or you don't want to put nothing in the header?
Well, see, the problem is then you're not using like you want to have about 1 inch of space around the whole border. You want 1 inch margins, just like in the cover letter. Like this is gonna look fine once we're done with it, you know. But the problem is, I'm just wondering why the heck this space is here. I should be able to delete this space. Like, I can't figure out why. Like, you should go to paragraph here, and you should go line spacing. You know, that's what adds space. See how it got bigger when I made it double? I can't understand why it's not letting me make it smaller. I'm hitting delete. There's nothing there. There's nothing in this box. I'm gonna try to delete this box over here to the left. See what happens. That did not help at all. I'm so confused. Oh, come on. Tell you what. All right, let's try this. I'm going to copy this information. And then we're going to delete this. And then we're going to insert a row above. And we're going to paste it.
You're not bilingual, so you can just take that line out.
Yeah,
I know,
right.
But it's still principle.
Yeah, couldn't I? Isn't that funny? All right, we did it. Although I need to get rid of that. Split cells. Whatever, it doesn't actually need to line up. How big was it? 24. There we go. All right, there we go. And then we go like this, no border, and there is our freaking resume. All on one page, 1 inch margins. The one little thing that I'd probably change before this is all over, I do need to still get this bottom part deleted here. Boop, there we go. The one little thing that I would change before this is over, see it worked there, is I would get rid of this little, like, it's doing the green thing off to the side here. Again, we don't need color on our resume, but if I print that on a black and white resume, that's just going to come out as like light gray. So it's not the biggest deal in the world, but I would go through and change that. But not a bad, not a bad looking example here, right? So I'm going to save this as our temp and turn this into a template. So I'm going to change all this back to just like put your name here to where we can delete it. And then you guys can use this. I've been meaning to update this example copy for a while now, because there's just some things on here that I don't like, from the last guy who did this. Pretty similar. Now, do you guys all need to use this version? No, you do not. You guys are welcome to go like this, File, New, search for a resume template. And then look, there's a ton of them, right? A lot of colored ones. But there's a ton of resumes out here. Here's the more traditional versions down here. You guys can do that. You guys can also, like Noel, you were talking about using something else. You can go to Google Docs. Check this out, docs.google.com. And look, oh, this is so funny. This must be from like the last time. Oh my God, I got previous students in here. Here are literally some resume templates that Google has for free on Google Docs, which is also free. And you can build your resumes. You can build them on here using Google Docs. So if I just click this and open it, all I have to do is just change this information, right? This is not a bad looking format either. I don't dislike this. I'd probably change all these to black. But other than that, that's like, the only thing that's a little bit different, they put experience over here, education down here. Maybe we decide to swap those two, right? But you guys can totally do those versions as well. You do not have to use my format. I know a lot of you guys might even already have resumes that maybe you've made in the past. You are totally welcome to use those and just modify them to get all your Sochi stuff on there. I'm not forcing you to use our template, but that is everything I got for you today. Sorry that took so long with the formatting thing. That was like my white whale. I was going to go crazy if I didn't figure that out. So thank you for bearing with me while I went insane. Do you guys have any questions today? Anything in the end? Noel, Charlie, Robert, Irene, you guys feeling good? Yeah, what's up, Irene?
For the related and not related work experience, if I don't feel comfortable, like say writing Sochi with the workouts that we have.
That's okay. Yeah, totally. You don't have to. That was just an example of what some people have done in the past. I know that like obviously Corona Sochi is a little different than it has been.
Yeah.
We haven't had as much hands-on stuff as some people have felt. So if that's the case, remember, like eventually this is all going to end. There's more, more and more vaccines are coming out every day. But like eventually this, this is going to be over. If you come back and like, some students do, like you want to like maybe work in the clinic for a little while and get your feet wet while you're still job hunting, and then you feel comfortable putting on your resume, you can always do that. Absolutely. You are welcome. As alumni of Sochi, you guys can sit in on classes for the rest of your lives. You can do whatever. You can hang around. You're always welcome to come chill.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
or we can figure something else out.
Yeah. If I were to have, say, no related work experience, maybe I can intertwine my past job sort of with like something that would be related to that.
Then just put non-related work experience. Because then, rather than just say work experience, because then you are showing, like you're highlighting, like if let's say like I were hiring you, Irene, and you put your resume came across my desk and it said non-related work experience, and it's just nothing but there's no personal training stuff on there at all, no fitness stuff on there at all. But I see you have a lot of like fitness education stuff. and then I see your career objective is like, I'm trying to get into the fitness industry, I'm going to be like, look at this person. Like, they know that like this isn't relevant to the industry, but they know how to work. But I see that you have the forethought to understand that it's non-related. I'm going to appreciate that. You know what I mean?
Okay, cool.
It's not like I can see that you're not trying to like slip by anything. It's just like, you're like, look, I get it. I haven't worked in this industry. That's why I want this job, you know? And I'm going to appreciate it.
Yeah.
I think that's going to work fine.
Yay, cool. Thanks.
Yeah. Any others? All right, guys, let's boot you.
I got one.
Oh, yeah.
Are you gonna be grading our resume as a print form or as a like an email form?
Oh no, I'm a computer guy. I'm just gonna look at it on the computer. I will print it though. Like, I always print them for you guys because like the satisfaction of having like your printed resume just feels good.
Yeah, no,
so I will totally print them.
Yeah, I'm just asking because, you know, when it comes to the color and having some color on there, what if you were just to print it black and white?
Yeah, that works just fine. I have nothing against that. I have nothing against that at all. I will say, like, just avoid those, like, if it's like a colored block, you know, like on the one we just saw, it was like a line, that's fine. But like, you know, sometimes you'll see these like big blocks of color, and it's like, that does not look good. When it prints, it gets all messed up. So, but I'll help you with that when it comes to like the actual formatting. And when it comes to grading your resumes, guys, I'm not looking, if you have a spelling error, I'm not grading you down for a spelling error. I'm going to help you fix that spelling error. It's pass fail. If you turn it in, you pass. If you don't turn it in, you get a bagel. That's how I grade resumes. I'm not like a resume expert. It's not fair for me to be like, I didn't like your choice of words here. You know what I mean? I'm a physiology expert. You've seen me do math and spelling. Both those things are terrible. You don't want me.
So you saying that's a homework?
Yeah, it's your homework too. So your homework too is to have your resume and your cover letter finished. But that's going to, so there is technically no
When does it
homework.
due?
What's that?
When's it due?
By the end of this course, you know, by the end of this class, which is a week from Thursday.
A week from Thursday, okay.
A week from Thursday.
All right.
But we're gonna meet in person, Noel, next week. I'm gonna book you guys into slots based on your availability. So you can work with me and we can actually sit side by side in person and get this typed out. Because not everybody has a computer. If you guys have one, see Irene. If you have a laptop, you have a computer, go for it. But not everybody does. So, you know, me making you do a resume and you don't have access to it, that'd be totally unfair. But Sochi has computers. So come meet with me. You and I are going to sit down and we're going to make one. Everybody is walking away with a good resume. That's my goal in this class. I don't want anybody to not have, you know, I want everybody to have a killer resume before they leave here. That way, when you get to the end of your program and it's time for you to go out job hunting, you can literally hit the ground running rather than wait around and be like, all right, well, now I graduated. Now I got to make a resume. Now I graduate. Now I got to make a cover. Screw that. You graduate, go get a job tomorrow, you know? So that's why we're doing this. All right, guys. That's it.
All right, bro. Thank you.
See you tomorrow, fellas.